Gentlemen, here, welcome you again to another Maglite podcast, all about preparedness today. And the man who wrote the book himself, Haskell Moore, Hurricane Preparedness for Home and Family. I think I murdered that a little bit, but
Close enough. Yep.
Here he is, Haskell Moore, our preparedness expert with lots of different Maglites behind you. We've talked about all kinds of things in terms of preparedness, but one that we haven't covered yet, which obviously you brought up to me as being very important, is having a Maglite in your vehicle at all times.
Absolutely.
So, you know what's funny? I read these books by author Paul Dorian about a Maine investigator for the Warden Service. And I was just reading one the other day, and sure enough, he parks somewhere at night and he can't see where he is, and he gets out an old school, 60 Maglite in the book, and he talks about how, had this around, and I was had my truck forever, and when I need to see something, or I could beat off a bear with it. So it was kind of funny that, I run across Maglite references in books that I read all the time. Walt Longmire, Sheriff, Absaroka County, Wyoming, carries one in the Longmire series. And of course, I just told you about the game warden, Mike Bowditch, who carries one in the Paul Dorian series. And it's funny, every time I read in a book, somewhere there's a Maglite reference. Anyway, why do you need one in your vehicle? I can think of lots of reasons.
Yeah. So this one actually has been in my car since 1998. Every car, truck, SUV I've had, it was incandescent, or it's the old incandescent, but it still has a lot of utility left in it. This one nowadays works more of a hammer. If I need to get into a vehicle, I retrofitted it with a pointed tip on it so you can break a window out with it. But yeah, this one's 25 years now I've had in the car. Of course, the one we like is the Maglite ML300 L40 LED long-running flashlight. And when you think of flashlight, you think of a piece of equipment that you use to see in the dark. But at the same time, what may be as important, if not more important, is being able to be seen in the dark. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Typically, what most of us will ever encounter where we need a flashlight is having a flat tire in the dark. And so, of course, the Maglite has this adjustable head where you can quickly go from spot to zoom with just a quarter twist of the head on it. And that's great to have. However, there is a wand that you can get for it and put on and turn on the light. So now you have diffused light, and I'm not going to turn it on because it'll wonk out the camera, but it will, not only do you have diffused light to see to work, but it will also give you some visibility from the side if you have cars coming up beside you.
Yeah, it works as a road. It works as a road flare without having the fire danger.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as a matter of fact, the one I really like is the ML150LR, the rechargeable one. And if you have a 12-volt accessory jack in the car, we used to call it a cigarette lighter jack, you can just plug this thing in, and it's always ready to go. That's what I like about them. They're always charged up, always ready. Absolutely fantastic. The other thing that you may have a need for a light for is if you get in a flood. Now, I know for some people that idea is ludicrous, but I spent 47 years in the Houston, Texas area.
Not in Florida today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And but flooding down there was very common. I mean, you could go to work on an absolutely perfect, beautiful day, and at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock when you got off work, there could be 2 feet of standing water in the roadway. So being able at night to be able to see the water in the road, to be able to look for obstacles, things like that. And again, there are a lot of people who end up getting stranded in their vehicle. Sometimes they just get on the freeway, traffic stops around them through no fault of their own. There they are, stuck in the water. And being able to use the light to signal for help is extremely important. So with this, 1,000 lumens of light cast a beam over 500 yards. And actually, when you're signaling for help, you can see this light for miles. So that's another reason to have a good Maglite in the car.
And of course, those are all larger Maglites. There are mounting brackets available where you can mount that in your truck or in your vehicle, or in your trunk or however you want to do it. And of course, we do have these size as well. This is the MagTac 2, the latest in the Maglite tactical line. And of course, you see those very pronounced raised ridges. Well, yes, this is designed so that you can operate it using your thumb, using your palm, because everybody knows who's, seen police on TV. They have the Harry's hold and the FBI hold in the various different ways that you want to hold a flashlight in a tactical situation with a handgun in your hand. But you know what? I love this just because of the grip. It's going to be so hard to get this out of my hand. And oftentimes, how often do bad things happen in perfect conditions? Right?
They just don't. It seems like of all the hurricanes I've ever experienced, always at night, floods.
And now for me in my neck of the woods up in the Pacific Northwest, ice storms and snow are when we get power outages.
Right.
Because the ice forms on a power line. It weighs too much. The ground is wet and muddy for months, and over goes the power line and out go the lights.
Right.
Anyway, so having something like this when I go outside to turn my generator on, because I'm probably going to have a glove on, where I can have a really solid grip on it because of that ridging. I love it. And of course, it can be used tactically as well. But I'm a big fan of this light because of the way that you can grip it. It's very hard to get it to slip out of your hand, and easy to operate with that rear cap. Anyway, a couple of reasons why you want to have one. And of course, in a disaster situation, you never know what's going to happen. The road could be blocked and you've got to walk out. You want some light. You want to be able to see where you're going. You want people to see you.
Yeah, I actually came up on an accident scene several years ago, and I came up on it, and it was a Jeep flipped on the side. And I asked the guy, I said, why isn't anybody doing anything? He said, well, we can't see in there, and not a single person had a flashlight. Well, I took the light, and it was actually this one, turned it up on its side, turned the light on, and then walked around to the front where I could see through the windshield, and I could see just plain as day what was going on in there. It was like a neoprene top to the Jeep. So I just took my knife, cut the top of the Jeep open, was able to get to the driver of the vehicle and apply first aid and support her until the ambulance got there. So you never know when something like that's going to happen. And of course, my brother tells the story about when he was behind an accident or came up on an accident in a rural area one time, and he used his flashlight to signal oncoming vehicles to let them know there was danger ahead. So yeah, there's all kinds of uses for a Maglite in a car.
Haskell Moore, he wrote the book on preparedness. Anything you want to add before we go?
That's it. Yeah, there is one thing. If you do find yourself in a flood situation, don't drive into high water unless your life depends on it. Over 89% of the people who die as a direct result of a hurricane do so by drowning. So don't drive into high water. And that's it for me.
All right, everybody be safe in Florida with everything that's going on right now. I'm Lou Desmond. That's another edition of the Maglite podcast. Until next time.